Hey, 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 how you doing? Welcome everybody to the Tarot Flow Show, where synchronicity is the star. I am your host, Alison Pickering, and it is my pleasure, always my pleasure, to introduce my co-host from Stockholm, Sweden, the student of all things Scandinavian, spiritual, and esoteric. And let me just ramble on and on while I bring in my good friend, Kefri Skarabus. Welcome.
Hi, Alison.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm fine. Thank
I am
you.
so glad to see you, and I'm so glad to see
Same.
our old friend Sue, who has been with us
Yeah.
before, and she's so adorable. She's a writer and an entrepreneur. She's a liberator of businesses in her wonderful writing
Yeah.
and in her imagination, and now she helps people envision their futures. She also envisions an off-grid retreat center that she's building now. She's an off-grid guru and an adventurer with her Entrepreneurs Gone Wild business, and this is the wonderful Sue Anderson. Welcome, Sue Anderson, to the
Wow.
show.
Thank you. What a wonderful intro. I love that. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're so adorable, and we need to make sure that you're brought in with all the appropriate accolades, but I don't think we've given even a 10% of who you actually are. But then we have a chance to see who you are when the cards pop up, because they're also angelic and adorable. So I look forward to seeing what the cards bring today. Tell us what's going on with you. What do you want to share with us today, Sue?
Just super excited about all that I'm doing. I'm passionate about getting entrepreneurs, specifically outdoors, more, because that's where our great ideas come from. And I love that. So I'm working on all fronts to make that possible, and it's become kind of an obsession. So.
Wonderful. Well, I know that when Kefri was showing me around his city of Stockholm and his hometown of Säter and things like that, we had the opportunity to do so much walking. And I'm such a cave dweller. I am indoors all the time. This is my little space, and getting out is really important. And it was very inspiring and very beautiful, and just the air and just the movement. And I've even heard that your body and your brain likes the sensation of forward movement when you're walking. It actually senses that progress through kind of time space and things like that. And I am talking myself into doing more of it right now. So
I love that. I had not heard that, but that makes sense. That's wonderful.
doesn't it? And it's kind of supports that idea of a walking meditation as well, and all those good things. So speaking of meditation and the interior journeys, because you're talking about the outdoors, but on this show we kind of deal with the indoors. What have you been thinking about lately? What has been some of your musings lately, as we go into this kind of introspective examination today?
Yeah. So a big thing that's been just on my mind, we're in the area, we're totally fine, but we are in the area of Northeast Tennessee, which of course got demolished in a lot of places by Hurricane Helene. But I've been able to see like neighbors helping neighbors, and just the power of people, like normal everyday people doing what they can to help each other. And it just gets you, like a lot of entrepreneurs, and I spend a lot of time doing that too. We do it myself, like very solo type of road, and seeing the power of people actually coming together to accomplish a shared goal. So it's just lighting me up in all new ways that I practically levitate. I'm so excited about it.
Wonderful. Well, it shows. You look beautiful, and that kind of inspiration really shows in your face and in your expression and your voice and all that good stuff. So that's a wonderful thing. So it's sad that tragic circumstances and all this crisis has to bring that out in people, but it's in us, it's in us to do those collective beautiful things. And so may those continue. We're going to do our little thing today. The first thing we're going to start out with is, let's just give the people an orientation. And so we are having a chance to meet and talk with you. Then we're going to unpack a random focus card. Then you're going to tell us a number between 1 and 22. We'll pick a card, unpack it, and then we'll get into our reading for your consideration. So let's take a quick look at the major player here. And that is, it looks like a man, looks like a woman, not not really a person. This is an image. It's a picture, a line drawing of an archetype that's in all of our consciousnesses. And it's the idea of our willingness, or the thing that gets awakened to do that idea to help people, or whatever the thing is that is sparking you to make that jump and to take that chance, is this figure of the Fool. And he goes through a lifetime, or his next lifetime, or whatever you want to describe it, a journey of the soul. First row, shall we say, what we come into the life with and how we're raised. It's just kind of the internal journey. This is a vast oversimplification, I'm sure you realize, but it's a good way to at least orient the cards. Second row are lessons of adulthood, all the things that we have to go through, the challenges that kind of teach us who we are, work the muscles of our independence in our adulthood or our consciousness. And then on the bottom, let's pull us off for a second here, our states of consciousness, ways of thinking, ways of feeling, ways of being. And then at the end, with that world card, there's a victory and an ending and a triumph of double wands. The magician in the beginning only has the one, and the idea of kind of ending a cycle and coming back to the beginning. That's that same Fool. This is us in every single one of these images. All of these are the lessons of a human being. So there's 22 of those between the Fool and between this one. So let's go ahead and see which one, Sue, in terms of between 1 and 22. I'm going to shuffle these up and tell me what number between 1 and 22 we should unpack today.
21.
21. Well, that's easy enough to count out because that's just one from the bottom here. So there's our one on the bottom, and here is that one, and that's the Strength card. So staying strong. Let's check out this Strength card. And so we're going to take kind of a macro view from far away, and then we're going to get real micro and itemizing and things like that. So in terms of macro view, what impressions does this card give? Sue, you're a wordsmith, you're a writer. What are a couple of words that come to mind when you just kind of get a holistic view of this card?
I'm just amazed by, a person right by a lion's mouth. Like, that's so cool. I love the eternity symbol over her, and the lion seems like he's subservient, or friendly. Indeed. At least.
So this is the card of strength. Some decks call it lust. It is a card of dealing with our animal self and the things that are our instincts and our passions and our shadow. For example, all of our ferocity. But look at the infinity symbol, like you said, over her head. And then there's all this passion. We've seen in other cards white lilies of purity, but here we have the red roses of passion. But it all is over a white dress, and that also indicates a certain purity. And then the cooperation or subservience of the lion to her will, and her will seeming to have more scope, is all there. What are some things that we should look at in this card, Kefri, as we think and consider the symbols that are inherent in cards?
I have been talking about this before, but the symbol for this card is the star sign for this card is Leo, and Leo is ruled by the sun, as we know. And here is a clue that the lion in this card is actually the sun. So this lady is mastering the sun, actually. So she masterings her influences, the things that influences her life, actually. And this goes also back to astrology, when you say that the more esoterical you are and the more you are in a contact with the spiritual source, the lesser your native horoscope and the transitions in the horoscope is affecting you. And that is in this picture, actually, that this when you are in contact with a spiritual force, you are not so you are not so thrown around in life, actually, because you can be stable in life because you are protected and you also feel it. And this white lady is also the representation of these spiritual things. So we can also say that this lady is the spiritual force that is mastering the sun power, the sun's power. And of course, you can also go deeper and say that this is God that mastering Christ. If you go deeper in it, because that is in here, hidden in this card. And there is also another biblical reference, because the Hebrew letter for this is Tet, and that is the symbol for that is the snake. And then you have the as you know, the story in Genesis of the Adam and Eve and the snake and everything, and that is hidden in here, and that is also connected to strength, actually, if you meditate on it. So it's a lot in this card, as usual in the cards, actually.
As usual in the cards, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything more, Sue, on the strengths card?
That's just really cool. I mean, so many details on it. I love that there's such depth to it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I never thought of that. I have heard, it's a Latin phrase and I can't quote it right now, but the idea being that we have the sun within us. We should not be subject to the stars, in terms of that reference to astrology. So this idea of having that stable core and being ourselves the rulers in terms of our own astrology or something like that, or the influences within us. So that's very appealing as well. Thank you so much. Let's take a look at our minor arcana before we jump into our reading today. And here are the 4 suits. We can see here that on the left is the clubs, up on top is the ace, and on the bottom is the knight. I said the clubs because that's the current name in our playing cards, but here, of course, it's the wands. The wands is a vital stick, so it's a live plant. It's a piece of life, and so it's this idea of the spark of life. It's the intuition. We really can't control it. It comes to us. We respond to it, and it gets us going, like that knight is showing us. And then if we imagined these wands, and then the cups, and then the swords, and then the pentacles as the left to right, if we flip it from top to bottom, we could see the idea of an idea coming from total vagueness into the flesh. That vagueness is that sparky intuition. It's an idea. It's very unformed at this point. There's this, if you're going to take it further, you got to care about it. That's the emotional piece with the cups. That's the world of the emotions and the feelings. You can see the questing on this Knight of Cups, who is crossing the waters. It's the water sign. And then if that thing we care about is going to come even closer to actually happening, then we're going to have to plan it out, which is that linear analytical suit of the swords, which is that suit of intellect and rationality. On a mission is that knight, and this is the suit of air. And then if it's going to happen in the flesh, it means it's going to happen literally in time, in the 3D. So our currency is our body and our 5 senses. That's why the 5-pointed star. We have the 4 physical elements and the element of spirit that also makes for a 5. And then we also have the element of time that we have to exist within, perhaps the software, so our brains don't explode in the chaos, because it's always now. If we've ever noticed, it's always now. It's never anything else. But that knight, perhaps that's what that Knight of Pentacles is indicating, that even though we may not be, we're not moving, but it's moving around us. Perhaps that's our view. They talk about how we move through time. Do we see time moving across us, or are we moving through time? Those are 2 different NLP perspectives, apparently. But all of these things are illustrated, which is always interesting to me. So those are our suits. And here then is a quickie view of the 1 through 10 of the wands, and the fiery signs of the court cards, the page, the knight, the king, the queen, and the king. Lots of fire signs there. Here's our cups with all the water signs. We can hear Kefri shuffling away as we get close to our reading now. Here's our swords. The swords are the suit of cool intellect, and it can be pretty cool and cold when we apply it to ourselves and others in its unadulterated form. If we just come out with a communication, I'm just being honest, it can be rather cruel because it needs to be more than just words. There has to be some intent behind it, and hopefully that intent is kind, or at least balanced. And then in our court cards, we can see all the air signs of the clouds and the wind and the butterflies and things like that, the birds. And then finally into our suit of the earth, which is the pentacles, responsibilities, contracts, families, housing, agriculture, stripped down fields. Nature is so powerful. Oh my gosh. And we think we're so powerful as humans, but then nature comes in and shows us where we are, hard to resist the tsunami or the hurricane. So all of these elements, we exist within them, shall we say. So there we go. And here's our reading that we're going to do with you, Sue, like we did before. Now, we also have a choice, Sue. If you wanted, we could get into a crazy complex reading like a Celtic cross. It's your second time round, and you're welcome to do either one. This is a lot to kind of track, but you're welcome to it. And the 7 card works as well. Let us know what preference you have. It's all an adventure for us.
I like that idea of the Celtic cross. That's
Are
cool.
you okay? I hope you're okay with that, Kefri.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So let's show
you. I will put it forward here.
Thank you. So I'm going to just put it up here for a moment, Sue, so we can see what this is referencing. Actually, I'm going to take us off for a second just so we can see this more clearly. Okay. So in the middle, number 1 is, let's say, you asking the question. This is going to be the representing Sue. And then we're going to have 2 cards on top of that. And that's as if you were in a boat on a river and you have both the wind as well as the current to contend with. Both might work together. Both might be in contrast to each other. You kind of have to navigate with both. And then what are you navigating? So that's basically the current circumstances. And all of this is going to be kind of a timeline around you. And so on the bottom is the distant past. It could even be out of memory at this point because it's sunken into unconsciousness. And in that way, it kind of goes with that number 8 card to the right, that unconscious inside of you card. But in terms of on the left, the distant past is the foundational piece. And then that goes to number 5, more recently, crossing over the present time into number 6 on the right side, that near future, what might be coming up. And then number 7 is kind of presuming all this continues. What can you anticipate further out? Another aspect of that number 7 card might be what this distant past thing is driving. What is it wanting? What's it, what is this whole dynamic kind of pointing itself to? And that would be that number 7 card. And then on the right side, we see this kind of what's inside you. So on the left side, we see a context, you in the context. And then on the right, we kind of see what's inside you. And so inside you is the unconscious drivers on that number 8 card, kind of related to that 4 card. Then we have the 9 card, which is the circumstances around you. Sometimes people call that the household card. What's the context? So inside you, unconscious, outside you, around you. And then this is kind of a directional card. What are you looking at? Not the only thing going on, but it's what you're looking at. And so that's the number 10 card. And then the number 11 could be kind of an umbrella. So overall, then we could say that we're talking about this kind of thing. And then we got a couple of advice cards. On the 13 on the left here is avoid this. And on the right is better to do this. Cool. So it's a pretty, robust set of cards, shall we say. And I'm going to ask you any questions, see if you might have any questions at this point.
No, this is fascinating.
Cool.
No questions.
Yeah, and they call this a Celtic cross, but it's also a field and an arrow, or it's not really Celtic. It's not really a cross. It's not really ancient. It comes from probably the 1890s, the 1900s is the first evidence of this kind of spread we see. But you can be very improvisational with a spread. But this one has some time-honored tradition, and we have it set up in our interface, so it works. So we'll go with this one, yeah. All right, so Kefri, handing off to you.
Thank you, Alison. And I am shuffling, Susan, and you say stop where you want the stop to be.
Stop.
There. And the cutting, how many times do you want to cut?
3.
3. 1 and 2 and 3. And in this spread, we also have a significator, and then that is you in connection to this question and this subject that will come up in this reading. And I will take the first queen from the bottom of the deck to indicate which is your significator. So we should see here which the first queen is. It is the Queen of Pentacles, actually. That is your significator.
Since you are on the homestead and you are dealing with so much literal earth moving right now, this is no surprise. And
no,
your dreams come true. Let's put that in the big position while we can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the next card is what is covering you. And I will also put the queen on my table here because it's still in the deck. Sorry. There it is. And then we take the next card, and that is what is covering you, and that is the moon card. And then the next card is what is crossing you, and that is the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man, and this card here is your distant past, and that is the 7 of Cups. Sorry, it's just my mom. I will just take it and say I will call later.
I'm going to pause the recording. Go ahead and take the call.
In the end result, Alison. And then the next card is the we should see here the near past, and that is the Page of Pentacles. And then we have this card, and that is the near future, and that is the Page of Swords. And then we have this card, and that is the distant or the middle future, and that is the 3 of Pentacles. And then we have this, and that is what we are calling the personal unconscious or the unconscious, and that is the Strength card, actually. And then we have this card that we call the house, the environment. That is the Ace of Pentacles. And then we have this card, and that is the conscious. And that is the 6 of Cups. And then we have this card that we can call what is coming out of all this if nothing is changing. And that is the 9 of Swords. And then we have this card here to the left, and that is the cautionary card, what not to do. And that is the 4 of Pentacles. And last but not least, this is the advice card, what to do. And that is the Empress card. So there's your Celtic cross. So.
Such an interesting reading. So that Queen of Pentacles that we see and the Empress they have so much in common in terms of their-ness, you know, and then they're very also much like that Strength card that we see in you. And there's so much that we've even talked about in our brief introductions now, Sue, in terms of the things that we've seen. Let's go ahead and put up that Queen of Pentacles, Kefri.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be the big display is going to be even more important on this one because those little cards are so tiny. Let me see if I can position us so we can get the card. No, it doesn't really change the size of the cards at all. Okay. So here you are on your land. Literally, you are on your land. You are the queen of all you survey. It is you are the queen. It is really your thing that's going on here. And as you look at this, you're in an interesting phase right now. And it's a major phase because we have 2 majors who are covering you. And those are the only majors except for the major in your personal unconscious. And so we can recognize that this is a big juncture for you. Let's go ahead, Kefri, and look at that moon firstly, please. And because we have the 3 different majors now, that 4 majors. Oh my God, there's like going to be 75 different Hebrew words for us to look at the end.
No, it will only be 2 actually.
Okay, good. So not to make light, because this is a big thing you're going through right now. So we're all being kind of cheerful and light and things like that, but that's a way to lighten the load. Because this is a very, not a dark night of the soul, but it's certainly a period of trial. And all of the aspects of you are howling right now. Your domesticated one who likes a nice warm house is going, and the wild one is like, this is glorious. And the unconscious one is saying, what the fuck have I gotten us into? And all of you are talking all at once, and it's very noisy inside your brain. And you can't do anything about it because you are in this weird position right now. Let's put up that Hanged Man. So when I say you can't do anything about it, I don't mean to be fatalistic about it. I mean that just is the nature of the moment right now, because you are where you are. You can't really change things in the short term. And this is just something that you have to endure at the moment because you can't change it. And so you just have to be perhaps even literally upside down financially. Or whatever the other upside downs are when you are kind of catching up to the situation, like everybody else is around you, everybody's kind of digging out of this thing, and so you too are stuck a bit. Perhaps you can't even get out of the compound because the road, it may well be that you're kind of stuck where you are. I remember when I was a kid, we were stuck at the top of a hill after a rainstorm. We couldn't get out. That was a weird feeling. It's very disempowering. And so that's where it's at right now, is just this kind of a strange period of time where you don't have the kind of control where you would like to, where you are accustomed to. So being the queen that you are, being the empress that is recommended, being the strong human that you are, being this much out of cause is very disconcerting and makes for a feeling of insecurity that you don't like, because you're a strong person and you like to know that you have some wherewithal. So let's look at what the situation is around you, because the current time feels rather dire, but what's around you is not dire. So in the past, you were in a position to dream and have lots of dreams, and to actually, and that's a 7. Do we have any other 7s going on here? No, but that's a 7 is the Chariot card in its movement. So the idea of moving emotions and your emotions moving you. So let's say that your dream moved you into this situation, and it's so literal. We'll just go ahead and look at these cards. Kefri, let's look at that Page of Pentacles.
Yeah.
Literally, did you move into a piece of land? Literally, did you plant your seed and your stake in a piece of raw land? And you have been literally tilling the soil and turning it over and making the foundations and doing all these things to see something beautiful come to fruition. And as we saw in the sequence of events, this is currently the time when your care about this situation is being tested. How married to this are you? To what degree must you fulfill this particular dream is probably what's on your mind right now. Let's look at that Page of Swords, Kefri. So you may not, please take this neutrally as I say this. As you come into please avoid judging yourself for the thoughts that are going to cross your mind, because they are going to be counter to the dreams you've had before. You might be thinking about, well, what if we just sold this place? Or what if we just went back home? Or what if we just bought a condo? Or what if we just rented a place to get through this? Or what if we just wintered elsewhere? What if we went to the Caribbean? I don't know. Honestly, these aren't bad things to think about. You are entitled to think about all of it because you are the Empress, you are the Queen, this is your dream, but the world interferes and all these things are happening, and there's nothing wrong with making a plan, honestly. And so as you do think about things, and again, you're on your it's interesting that the landscape has shifted a little bit. Let's look at that Page of Pentacles, Kefri, and I want to compare it to this Page of Wands. And so the Page of Pentacles is on this very calm, lush ground, and he's looking to the east, right? He's looking at this business. And now let's look at that Page of Pentacles, Kefri, if you don't mind. When we look at that Page of Pentacles, now he's looking back. He's looking west. He's looking in the other direction. Look at the amount of wind and clouds that are on the horizon. He needs to prepare. He needs to get ready. There's a certain amount of the landscape has changed. There's a bit of stripping of the landscape that's happened. There's just now it's a different kind of thinking than there was before. So the planning that was happening before and the planning that's happening now, they're different from each other. That's okay. They come together in the future as you determine, and it's not going to be alone. So even though you have been in this queenly empress alone position in terms of everybody's been kind of doing your dream, now it's going to be time in the future. Kefri, let's take a look at the dream as it begins to manifest, because you can't carry it out together. I mean, you can't carry it out alone. It's as you carry out plans, it must involve other people. So now that all this upheaval and all this everything has happened, perhaps this is even your first 3 domes. Maybe this is, I mean, you can even see above there, so now you have in the future is the literal building of the structure for the people to be in. Is a beautiful thing. And those structures are circular. So you can see, maybe you're going to start with 3, something along those lines around a central meeting area. That would be an interesting thing. Maybe you are talking to the builders or to the, you are blueprinting or you're surveying or you're doing something along those lines right now. But the idea is that everybody's bringing their strengths to the equation. This is hard to think about right now because there has been such devastation. It makes you question the entire plan. That's okay. That's okay. That's that you are responsible for it. And so it must be questioned if it should be questioned. So let's look at this an unconscious position. Rely on your thinking. You're not your thinking can be relied upon. Your internal attitude toward this is strong, even if it's different than it was before. So even if your plans have, even if you're like contemplating a big fat change, a big fat turnaround, something like that, even if you're planning on running away, I don't even know. And that's a very emotionally loaded word for me to use. Even if you're planning on having a hiatus, it's all very strong thinking. It reflects seeing both sides. It reflects both the needy part of yourself as well as the visionary part of yourself. All of those things need to be honored. So it's appropriate that there be new plans around you in your household. Let's look at that ace, please, Kefri. As you look around you in the household, lots of people are coming up with new ideas. Lots of new things are coming up. It's not inappropriate after a giant upheaval for new ideas to be born. It's not inappropriate for new shoots to grow on the tree after the branches have been torn off. It's not, the circumstances have changed. So with this change in circumstance, there is a different path perhaps to those mountains, through that arbor, than you had originally envisioned. Or perhaps this reinforces your path. It's okay either way. It's important also to honor what is on your mind right now. And let's look at what's on your mind right now, Kefri, with that 6. Remembering that 6 is the place of balance, that 6 is a place of the Christ consciousness, that 6 is a place of honor. And so honoring your childhood dreams. Tell me about your parents, Sue. Are they still alive?
Yes.
Okay. Honoring what your parents might need at this point in time is important. If that means that you might even need, look at this little corner, there's a half a man kind of on the left side, kind of walking away from something right now. If in order for you to take care of your parents right now, you might need to walk away from this particular garden for a minute, that might be okay, because it represents balance of emotion and a priority in terms of where your heart lies. But in your conscious mind, this is a difficult thing to confront. Kefri, let's look at that 9. It's like, oh my God, what have I done? How can I pull all this together? How could I tell people that I've changed my mind, or that I might want to change my timeline, or that I have had a change of heart, or that I don't have a change of heart and I really still want to do it? How can I tell them, because they're waiting for me to run back home? I don't know. I could see it going either way, and I can see the going back home as a metaphor also being a temporary solution to be humane to your loved ones and yourself, as a way to get through and hunker down for a while. But what's interesting is that the hunkering down card is not necessarily recommended. So let's look at that 4. So if you're hanging on tight to any particular thing out of a need to not let it go, I can't let it go because it would be a loss. That idea of the fallacy of sunken cost. Don't get caught in that, oh my God, we've done so much, we have to see it through. That may not be the most productive thing at this point. You may have to step back and take a longer view. So in terms of the real estate, in terms of taking a loan, in terms of doubling down, in terms of hanging on tight to what that Page of Pentacles coin. So that coin that you had in the past, this idea that you had, if you're hanging on so tight that it's squeezing your finances and making everybody else feel squeezed, then that may be not the better idea. And it might be okay for you to acknowledge how difficult, or acknowledge any regrets you might have, which is also represented by that 9. And just communicate, oh my gosh, this particular plan, either we can or we can't, or we choose or we don't choose to execute it now. It's always a choice. And you are the Empress. Let's look at this Empress. You may rule. You may make a decision. You may be capricious. You may change your mind. You may stay with yourself. You may do, it's honestly, it's trust your thinking without any regret. Avoid getting tight on a particular idea because you're stubborn. Recognize that rulership requires flexibility and generosity, and that it's okay to have some cush sometimes. Maybe it's good to have a cushy winter just to be able to come back again in spring. I'm not sure what's on your mind, but it's legit. Whatever it is, trust it, and but allow yourself to be comfortable. Don't punish yourself in order to be stoic. Stoicness is a principle that you might be hanging on to honor someone like your father, whereas you really need to be a mother in this case, or a daughter, and really make people comfortable, and yourself as well. Kefri, you may have a different viewpoint on this, but I've staked my claim. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Of course. Of course. Thank you, Alison. I will go a bit deeper here because I see that this is not about giving up, actually. It's more about what has happened now has shown new visions, actually, and also new visions, a shadow side of reality, so to speak. And that has also opened up something in you, Susan, and you are going deep for the moment inside of you to see, why have I done this? What is the meaning of it? And so on.
Is that the moon card, Jeffrey?
Oh, yeah, it's the moon card.
Would you mind showing it?
Yeah, I can.
It's so hard to see in this reading.
Yeah, I can show it. And this is that shadow, but I see it as a shadow here that is a shadow of life also, a shadow of reality, because hidden in this card by the 15 yods that is falling from the moon is actually the planet Saturn. And the planet Saturn is a planet that can be very harsh and can be very dark and can be very hard, but there is a lesson in it. It's a lesson. There is something to be learned here. And it has to do with tradition also, to go back to something in an old tradition. So that is all in here, and there is a way out of this, and that way is leading forward, actually, even if there is others around that probably is acting like that wolf and the dog and just bark, actually, to the moon, to the dark, so to speak, to the dark energy. But there is also a way of a path that is formed there to go there, actually. And probably when you are walking that path, you will also be more connected to something higher, to something spiritual, I would say. And if it's not so now, it will be in a short time, actually, because those two towers there is a passing point for that, I would say. And the significator here, the Queen of Pentacles, is interesting because this is you, Susan, and you are very good to keep what you have been given, actually, in knowledge, in things that nature have given you. And you are very good to know how you should make those things in the nature to even be bigger than they are now, to get them to grow, actually. And that is very, very special for this subject that this reading is about, actually. And the Hangman here is a bit tricky, actually, because I read it here like you think that you need to turn everything around to get to the answer, but you really don't need that. You need to be in it and to ponder it, actually, because you don't need any big revelation here or something, because you need to see what you have around you, actually. And in the past, it has been quite difficult to decide in this, what should this be that you are trying to create? What should this be? What should be the main thing of this? What is the developing thing? What needs the world? What is it that the world is needing? And so on and so on. And that has been good to penetrate it, but now it's like it's starting to take a small form here, actually. And that could also be that something is starting to return something economically in money or in resources, but it is very small for the moment. But it is something that is happening or will be happening. But I think it already is happening, actually. And it's also connected to this agriculture thing also, and to make things grow slowly, so to speak, to let the seed grow. And the Page of Swords here is interesting because he is all about wind, actually, because it is the suit of wind, but also looking at it, he is or she is in a wind, actually. She has a wind that is against her. You can see it on her hair here. This is blowing. And this I read as a message to you that try to smell what is right to do here, because I don't think all that is involved is clear about what is to be done here. And it could also be some that has not totally honest in this, that isn't totally honest in this. And it is your mission to find who that is and know that you shouldn't trust that person or that ID that is presented to you or something. And as Alison has said, in the future, you will be cooperating with people and there will be something built, actually. And it is highly esoterical and spiritual people, I would say. So that is in here, actually. And again, we go to that strength card that is unconscious. And I think you know that inside that you will manage this and you are strong. You can do this. You can do this even if it is hard for the moment. But for the moment also, and we are going back to this pentacle again as a coin, actually, because you can see a similarity with that pentacle and that pentacle, actually. And this is the pentacle that is given from somewhere higher, and higher force, a spiritual force, a divine force, I would say. So there could be something that is happening for the moment that you haven't expected, actually. And that thing that you haven't expected will actually open up something new that you has not been prepared for. And it is also this card is a lot of balance, as Alison has been saying, a lot of light here, a lot of going back also to your childhood ideas, actually, and fantasies, imagination, because I think that something that you are creating now has been with you for a long time and taken form, actually, during your life up to now. And again, this 9 here is looks like tricky, but it's actually like the side of this one also that says that in your desperation, you will build a foundation to rest on, actually. And again, there is a secret in this card, and if you look at the sword, swords, they are actually building a ladder that you can climb out of the card on, so to speak. And also this cover here is also full of astrological symbol if you take a magnifying glass and look at this card actually. So there is something here again with the esoterical and perhaps tools that can show you ways that you don't know of, so to speak. And there is also a rose here that is duplicated over and over again, and that is of course the balancing the spiritual energies, the divine energies, and those will give you power in this, I would say. And the cautionary card here, as Alison has been saying, it's not about hiding away when it is in this position actually, because I think it's the right time to create what you have been dreaming of, even if it is quite difficult to do it as things looks like now. But this Empress card here, the symbol for the Hebrew letter that is connected to this card is actually a doorway, and the door that is opening, and that door is opening up to the light. And this card is also a lot of growing actually. You can see it, she is also pregnant actually, that woman, and you have all the wheat of what it is in the card that is blooming there, growing, and you have all the greenery with the tree, and you have the water and everything, and you also have the planet of Venus, that is the planet for femininity and love, of course, and love for life also. So that is in that card, and I think that is what will be the result of that you will love even more what you are creating actually, and what you want to create. So that is beautiful here actually. And looking at these cards, the major arcana cards here, the moon is the back of the head for the Hebrew letter there, and the back of the head is, I think, the reptile brain that has been activated, because that needs to be activated when everything is taken from us, so to speak. That is the first thing that will happen actually. And the Hanged Man is quite interesting because the symbol for that is water. And that is what you have been able to give here, actually. And the strength here, we have already told it is a snake. And I think that could be connected to animals, actually, or if it is a saving of animals, or to inventate which animal has been affected of this, or which animal should be made to survive in an environment like this, and should be helped to that, and so on. And you already know that it's a portal here, it's a door. So that could be the door that is opened here. The water has opened up a door, actually. And the Hebrew words here are quite enigmatic, actually, because it is words, but you have to take them apart to get the meaning of them, actually, because there is if you follow the major arcana card from bottom to top in this reading, there is one word that is kamtad, and going from up to down, there is another word that is datmak, and that is actually two Hebrew words in one word, so to speak, in each of those words. And I have been doing a bit searching and looked for it. And it is like going from down to up in this reading. I see that that is how you regard things connected to a higher source or so on. And the word here is actually, if it would be translated, it could be something like molded heart poet and philosopher, and that could be what you are doing. Actually, you are getting strength in your heart from your poetry and your philosophy and your what you are creating. And the the word that goes from top to bottom here, that I would say, I read it like this is the divine vibration that is coming in this situation. And if I would try to translate it in some way, it will be whom I uphold the law for or the custom for. So it's like keep something is kept for you in this that is connected to custom and law. And I was telling about the moon card that there is tradition in that card. So there is something there that is in this situation that will help you, actually. That is a law, a higher law, so to speak, that is there. And it could be that it could be a message underneath that you are supported. That is how I see it. So that is what I see in this card on a bit deeper level, actually. But you are very strong, and I don't think you will give up this thing, actually. So I stop there. Thank you.
Wow. Very cool.
Thank
Very
you.
cool.
Very cool. The tradition is right there. Isn't it interesting that the water has been the source of devastation, but that, and Kefri, I don't think that you knew that Sue and her husband had a water purification method that they were able to share water with people down the hill who didn't have water.
I didn't. But I saw it was something.
Yeah, and then the water was the source of all this devastation. But then also the people coming together is really a beautiful thing that I see in that Three of Pentacles. All the things that are very inspiring to you. Very interesting. What were any cards particularly evocative to you, Sue?
The way the whole thing of them works together is like, oh wow. So
it's always amazing. It's always amazing.
Yeah. So we're looking at, we have some extra acres that are not particularly useful to us, that we are in the process of, well, once we're able to get a guy out here to do the soil test on it, but we realized that if we sell that can fund a lot of what we want to do on the property that we want to use. So that's been cool. Water, of course, has been keeping him away, but at some point, he'll be able to come out and do what he needs so that we can fund what comes next. But
very good. And these cards would seem to indicate to keep a sharp eye out, to like really listen critically to what they're saying, because there's going to be a lot of people coming out after a disaster, kind of carpetbagging.
Oh,
so to speak. Yeah.
It happens.
It does indeed. And so you'll have your eye open to that. So you'll be able to suss out who's for real and who's bogus and all of that stuff, so that you'll have the best people. Yeah, I find this fascinating. And then the Earth Mother is just the Empress and the Queen of Pentacles, and you have them both in that Strength card. It really, you really are quite the female, Miss Anderson.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us again. I hope this has been useful for you. And I think Sue has frozen a bit. I think that our energy, there you go. So I hope that this has been useful to you, Susan.
Very. Okay, super cool. Super cool.
Very good. You're always welcome. This is always available, and it's always fun to see you. So I look forward to talking with you again.
Thank you.
And all the best to you and to your neighbors in the Appalachian Mountains as you recover. Is this new hurricane headed your way, or is that further south?
I hope not. Right now, it's actually aimed at where my mom is. So.
Oh my gosh, she's in Alabama, your mom?
No, she's in Florida.
She's in Florida. Okay. So, well, we will pray for everybody to stay okay in all this crazy weather.
Thank you.
And you as well, and your beautiful neighbors, and all the best to you, Sue.
Thank you so much, Allison and Kefri. This was really cool.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Kefri, we'll talk to everybody soon.
Yeah.